3, 2, 1, go. We're live. This is Retrace segment number 80 for Tuesday, December 13th, 2022 at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, new time slot. Retrace is about what's going on out there. The short answer is computer control. The long answer to that is natural, artificial, and strategic intelligence. Retrace is for outsiders. Humanity is the best part. Well, we came to the conclusion that outsiders are not players in the computer control game, so we're learning to play, maybe learning artificial intelligence autodidactically. Doesn't matter. Today we're doing a recap. Recapping our first pass at artificial intelligence, which is the way I'm thinking about it. Let's just jump right over. If the Russell and Norvig definition of or phenomenon that's at the center of artificial intelligence is intelligent agents, and our phenomenon at the center of strategic intelligence is intelligence agents, including agencies, government, and otherwise, then maybe what we were groping at here at Re6 through Re9 was the question of what to think about lifelike, strategically behaving artifacts, i.e. intelligent artifacts, okay? Intelligent agents, intelligence agents, and intelligent artifacts. So the third one's what we're talking about today, Re6 through Re9. We are not incorporating everything we've said about artificial intelligence up to this point in the history of Retrace because that's way too much to put into one. We're just going to recap those segments. All right, let's jump right in. These are the notes and the abstracts we'll be working from Re6 through Re9 notes that are available at notes.retrace.com. And let's jump right in. So the first segment we did was Re6 interface. We talked about 6 questions, basically everything but the what. If you ask the question, what is AI? You can, set that one aside. The who, what, where, when, but also which is one that I think is a question word that gets neglected, and I think it's the basis. Is it the basis? I don't know. It can be thought of as the basis of the who. So, say who is AI? And that's a weird question, but you can ask that question in the future, maybe in the present, maybe even when we did this segment back in 2020, I think it was. But it's kind of weird right now. But who is sort of like the which version of that is which person or which entity that we would call a who. Where? Which place in space? When? Which place in time? How? Which path of causes or something like that? Why? Which reason? And separating how and why is a mess. And so which is my favorite question word, and you never hear about it. It's totally the unsung hero of question words. You can ask these questions, and it's my hang on a second. I got way ahead of myself. This is sort of what I want to say. This is sort of a mind-bendy pass that we took at artificial intelligence, and I completely stand by it. I really think all this stuff still makes sense to me, but I've heard that it doesn't make sense to everyone. So if it doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. Just hang out and relax. Why are you getting so unrelaxed? AI is an ocean. There's an ocean of stuff going on out there. It's really hard to put your finger on any of the W questions when you're asking it about AI. Herbert Simon, he was one of the early thinkers and engineers, and along with Alan Newell, I think was an economist, but they worked together, and the Herbert Simon that we care about. I mean, they wrote one of the first programs, but this is the thing. Herbert Simon's The Sciences of the Artificial. That's the thing that we're going to come back to again and again. Talks about artifacts being an interface between inner and outer environments, but also that it's like, it's the interface between inner and outer environments, the inner environment of the artifact and the outer. It's sort of like a circular definition. What is the artifact? It's the interface between itself and so that's circular. But he then expands on that later in the book, to not much later, like on page 10, to incorporate the centrality of goals and intentions. Okay, we're not going to go deeply into like the sort of mental model that you could build around these words when you're trying to understand artifacts. But let's suffice it to say, there's a lot. You have to make a lot of decisions as a thinker about artificial intelligence, how you're going to think about what it is and how you're not going to think about it. And if you're so inclined to try and go deep in waters that are not easily swam or boated, if you're more of an engineering mind, if you make the decision to go into these waters, prepare to be holding your breath for long stretches. Okay, what else? Artifacts. I mean, what are artifacts? Everything's an artifact: a watch, a computer, a keyboard, a highlighter, a cup of coffee. Oh, a cup of coffee. I mean, coffee is for closers. Just wanted to reiterate that. I think before this segment, I talked about, or maybe after it, I think it was before this one, thinking deeply about AI will make you think deep thoughts, even about something as simple as a cup of coffee. I think I justify that in these notes, but I'm not going to go over it again. What about a battery? What about a simple AA battery? There's a chemistry experiment going on inside. Outside of it, it has 2 leads and a label and color and style. It's put together in just the right way so that we get power out of it if we use it in just the right way. Okay, so a battery has an inner and outer environment, but it also has goals and intentions and perhaps in the next tier I say perhaps artifacts or interfaces between goals and environments. But okay, let's stop for a second. If artifacts are the interface between goals and environments, if we think that way, instead of them being the interface, if you can even have this thought, which I really can't, an interface between an inner and an outer environment, then the real question about an artifact that we should always ask, the real set of questions, have to do with intentions and goals. Whose intentions? What's intentions? Whose goals? What's goals? If this is the interface, this cup of coffee, what's its inner environment? It's not the liquid inside, water, by the way. And, there's barely any structure to speak of, any interesting structure to speak of inside the ceramic material itself. Whose goals? What happened here? How did this get here? I know, I bought it, but still, you know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I'm talking about? I told you this is going to be hard. All right. There are many goals. Imagine the manufacture of a battery in a plant, and its delivery. So many people, so many goals and intentions, so many people working, maybe not on the battery once the machinery of the plant is running, but the machinery itself is artifacts, animate artifacts almost. That's a funny word. Let's not take too many chances. Where are the goals? Where do they start? Where do they stop? Do they move? Okay, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Stop it. Just relax. Just a minute. Okay. Segment number Re7, Artifactual Goals. Goals produce artifacts, right? You want to sell something. You want to sell anything. Wow, it looks like if I just make a little cylinder and call it Duracell, I might be able to make like boatloads of money, right? You want to do something. Okay, that goal produces a Duracell. Duracell's my favorite. Sorry, I don't get paid by them, but I just think that they're better. I've never tested it, but I just think that they're better. Okay, the goal of whatever the goal was that led you to make the battery, because you're the Duracell guy, Wilhelm von Duracell, whatever. And the artifact is the result, but it's not just that artifact, it's the machinery, and it's billions of them at this point. Goals produced artifacts. Okay, easy enough to follow. Artifacts might absorb goals. What the fuck is he talking about? Listen, okay, let's think about the battery or an abacus. Once it's been created, once it's the result of a goal or like dozens of them. Where are those goals? I mean, physically, like where are they? Still in the person? No, they're gone now. The goal led to the artifact. The goal is gone. I know this is, it's not squishy though. It's not. I'm telling you, we can talk about intelligent agents all the time, all day long when we're studying AMA 4E, Artificial Intelligence and Modern Approach. Whenever we talk about artificial intelligence, we can always just focus, we're going to program computers and then maybe hook them up to robot arms and wheels, and then we'll be done. Okay? I don't think that's what we're really dealing with. Hence, these first segments on artificial intelligence that have almost nothing to say about intelligent agents. There's no agency in any of this stuff. Well, not until the end. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. What's in the battery? What's in the cup of coffee? In the abacus, I think there's goals in them there. I almost said gold in them there hills because I was going to say them there. There's gold in them there hills. There's goals in them there batteries. Okay? I don't know why I think that. I just do. Why don't you think that? Okay. So artifacts might absorb goals. It really depends on the physical interpretation of goal. Does an idea or intention leave the mind or become somehow embodied or instantiated or imitated in, say, an abacus? Okay. Artifacts causing goals might absorb their own goals. Any machines that move that have, oh yeah, this is weird too. Okay, so this is harder. This is a harder sell. Imagine a machine with moving parts, multiple components, and what's the, a car engine, like a simple one. Mr. Machine. Did you ever have Mr. Machine? Google it. Okay, Mr. Machine is a robot toy. You wind it up. It's all these gears. It's transparent, and so you can see it. Mr. Machining, and each one of those sprockets and cogs in the machine are themselves artifacts. Okay, the wind-up act when you have a Mr. Machine, it's a great experience. Let me tell you. I don't have one anymore, much to my chagrin. When you wind a Mr. Machine, I only did this when I was 5. I promise I haven't done this recently. It would be nice if you wind a Mr. Machine. Your intention is to have the Mr. Machine experience. Okay, your goal is that you've acquired this artifact, but this artifact is a compound artifact. It's many artifacts put together for the purpose of Mr. Machining something. You wind it, and then you're no longer interacting with it. Your goal has been absorbed by the Mr. Machine, but it's not in all of the sub. Am I being too crazy here? It's not in every single sprocket and piece until there's energy. Well, now we go to physics, right? It's like entropy. It's heat transport. It's mechanical energy. And energy is totally mysterious, and nobody even talks about it, and they act like it's just something we understand. Nobody understands energy, and nobody understands information, and they might be the same thing. Set that aside. Stay on the boat. Anyway, Mr. Machine has deep philosophical implications. Okay. Machines come alive. Was Mr. Machine alive? I'm pretty sure he was. I mean, I never had a conversation with him, but that's not a prerequisite to life. Okay. Consider like the Alpha Zero system, which I've read that Google, after they developed Alpha Zero, they started using it to manage the power consumption in their data centers. SCADA systems. SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Systems. These are just basically like industrial control systems. Before we knew we had to secure these things, I don't think they call them SCADA anymore. They call them something else so that no one gets scared that our water supply is under their control and hackable. SCADA systems are sort of controlling things in a sort of. Did you ever see that scene? I don't remember. It was one of the Matrix movies where Neo and what's the other guy? Morpheus. They're like standing on inside the bowels of the city that they're and not in the Matrix but outside of it, and they're like watching giant toothed gears turning and reflecting on how they don't know how it works. That is like a SCADA system, or whatever's controlling that is a SCADA system, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to Zion. Okay, so goals coming out of machines. This is a well-worn topic. This is basically everything you hear. So what did I cite here? Number 3, I cited Bostrom. Yeah, well, he and a million other people talking about superintelligence, blah, blah, blah. Artifacts exchanging goals. If goals can move between entities of any sort, they might move between entities of all sorts. This is important. In physics does not care whether you're a coffee cup or a rock, one of which is an artifact, the other one is not. But can a goal move from a being like a coffee cup engineer, which is, I know, is a very highly sought after career path? Can a goal move from a coffee cup engineer into the coffee cup? Of course. I mean, based on the way we're talking about it now, the same way it moves into a battery. Can a goal move from a coffee cup engineer into a rock? Yeah. Throw the rock at a window. Don't know why you're doing that. You should be happy you're a coffee cup engineer. Your life is made. Yeah, goals can move between different things in the sense that we're talking about them here. What would we do if we knew whether machines can have goals or share them or become lifelike or become dangerous? What action on our part would that imply? It's not obvious. How could the world be reorganized to prevent dangerous super artificial intelligence? Is it something we're doing or something that's happening to us? It's just, I mean, some days I feel like it's obvious, and some days I feel like, what are we talking about here? We're going to sit here and reorganize society in order to prevent something that might not ever happen or might not happen, before we're ready for it or something like that. These are things that we should think about more than we should think about coffee cups. Totalitarianism is one response. If you really think that that we're headed toward Bostrom super AI, we're going to lose control and we're going to be at the mercy of whatever happens or whatever this is something to think about too. And I was just sort of browsing Simon's Sciences of the Artificial again. He's talking on pages, I'm not going to cite this in the notes, so this is a little Easter egg for you, 151 to 153, about how much sort of undue power and influence the professional engineer has in designing and effects on social systems. So if we're talking about what we would do, and the obvious wrong answer is, institute a totalitarian society so that no one builds the machines that are going to destroy us. Obviously, it's morally wrong, and also it's almost certainly not going to work. We're going to have to be a bit more clever than that. These are things to think about. A war that necessarily the art-elect war. I probably talked about it a dozen times at this point. But the thing, when you think art-elect war, you should totally ignore the machines. Okay, this is Hugo de Garis's idea. Don't read the book. The book sucks. I love the guy. I love he's such an original thinker, but man, he needs an editor. I do too, right? But I have one. I have someone telling me you spoke too long about that. He does not have that. Anyway, there is a book, but listen to one of his talks. His talks are good. It's a war. The Art-elect war is this prediction of a giga-death war because we keep scaling up how many people we can kill in a war. And it's the impetus for the war is basically home robots keep getting better and smarter, and then both groups of people, and we separate into two groups, discern that these things are going to keep going, and what are we going to do when they are smarter than us? Like, my home robot is almost as smart as my cousin. Like, my cousin is an idiot, and my robot is almost smarter than my cousin, but I'm not an idiot, and I'm not going to buy the next version of iRobot that's smarter than my cousin, because even my cousin gives me trouble. This thing, no way. So there's going to be one camp of people, the Terrans, the Terra people, the Earth-oriented, the worldly people, the humanists, arguably, who say, no, we got to stop this. We can't build these things. And then there are going to be the cosmists, the space people, the destiny, the cosmic endowment people who say, hey, look, I don't know what's going to happen to us, but we got to do this. I mean, this is the opportunity of a civilization, of a species lifetime. We can't just not do it. Look, if we just, I've got 3 more lines of Python and we've got this thing. How could I not write these 3 lines of Python? Are you kidding me? And those two people go to war, right? And it's a very sort of, it's got a lot to do. It's got not a lot to do with. It's got a lot. It has a lot of resemblance with sort of nuclear deterrence. And this sort of infinite regress into steps into the past or into the present, where, if you shoot first, then I get screwed, so I'm going to shoot first. But then, okay, let's both build our system so that no matter who shoots, both people die. That's mutually assured destruction. But I'm going to send my spies so that maybe they can sort of clip one of the wires in your system. But you're going to send your spies to clip one of the wires in my system. And on until you're thinking, all right, we can't raise any children who agree with the other team, right? Like, you got to keep moving back in time. And so what's the spark? It depends on how convinced people become that this that this is a possibility, that your dumb cousin is going to be passed up by in intelligence by your home robot, by your iRobot. Okay, that's the Art-elect war. Let's go to Re8. Strange machine. Oh, yeah. I pulled together, like, everybody saying anything interesting about this in print. Not everybody, but, like, a lot of the stuff. And I think it's better to read my abstract than try and go through that. So, strange machine. Artifacts with goals should not be called artifacts. That's me, not anybody else. Simon on living systems being like artifacts, organic evolution versus Gray Walter's tortoises. Samuel Butler recommends war to the death. War to the death. Kind of a stark message there. Dyson agrees the entities are real, agrees with his daughter. I think it was his daughter who sort of pointed out to him that these things moving around on the computer screen are not fake. They're actually like life forms. Stephen Wolfram, A New Kind of Science in 2002, did crazy stuff with cellular automata. Go check it out. Yudkowsky says there's no fire alarm for this. We're not going to get sufficient warning. I.J. Good says take science fiction more seriously. That's part of what he says in his 64 paper on ultra-intelligent machines. Yudkowsky says definitions can be distractions. I think that's intelligence. Explosion microeconomics. Russell and Norvig say the difference in technologies is autonomy. The reason you should worry about artificial intelligence dangers is because of the autonomy, whereas we've had technological dangers in the past. This one's different for that reason. Von Neumann gives a sort of neutral definition of the singularity, not really saying, at least in what we know of what he said, whether it's a good or bad thing, or at least what I know of what he said, which is secondhand, third hand, actually. Kurzweil is very optimistic. We're going to merge with these things, and it's going to fulfill our human destiny. But you have to keep upgrading to keep up. That's the key there to Kurzweil's vision. There's a morality involved in a machine takeover. Like if you think this is imminent, this kind of gets to the art of like the war. Like, and if you don't know, if you can't be reasonably confident about the survival of most of humanity, there's a huge moral dimension. It's probably the dimension of that problem. Stuart Russell on his own is talking about the user's mind as an environment for reinforcement algorithms and social media. And that the algorithms will change the user's mind to make it more predictable. Dyson says focus on reproduction, communication, and control, less so intelligence. Everyone's focused on intelligence, but reproduction, communication, and control might be more important, analog especially. He talks about analog later. Smallberg talks about energy sources. I mentioned, I think this is me talking about looking for things, the difference between search and looking for things. There's a subtle difference, at least in the language. Diederik talked about reproduction and autonomy. And then we asked the question, what to do about all this? And Bostrom starts his discussion of that at the end of Superintelligence by talking about deferred gratification. And then I just point out at the end that skyscrapers are not as tall as they seem. There's sort of an evolutionary theory behind our perception of skyscrapers that has to do with the cost of climbing up hills or mountains that makes them seem taller than they are. Just to be clear, if you take a tall thing and you lay it on its side, it always looks longer than it does. It always looks shorter than it does tall. So like if you, I can do it. I think the first time I talked about this, we weren't doing video. Okay. So which one looks taller? Can you see? I'll do it ready with the white backdrop. Can you see? See if I can hold this. So one pen. See that? Okay. So the pen looks taller even if you do it like this. Doesn't it look taller? Okay, that's your evolutionarily adapted vision trying to save you from climbing up a hill and looking for something that you might be able to find without climbing up the hill. All right, that's Re8, and then finally Re9. We did that right. Strange machine, yeah. The basis of this, they can see you. The basis of this is this idea of camouflage failure. So the point is made by who was it again? Anderson and what does he say? It's he who pays the AI calls the tune. I remember that. Like if I'm remembering this correctly, like the title had nothing to do with what was really interesting about that particular short article that was collected in the Brockman book. But basically, AI systems and their controllers can now see things like. Well, I'll just read it. So the people who control them are already doing things, seeing us in ways we can't see ourselves or each other. Tell me I gave a better. Yeah, true colors, like they can predict, your sexual orientation and it's sort of like the idea is that we have not adapted to an environment in which there are machines and people controlling machines who can, just from a few little interactions of ours on, say, social media, tell what our sexual orientation is or what our true opinions about something are, or, what we really care about, what sort of secret values or desires we have, that we're not adapted to that. We're not ready for that. We have a camouflage failure. We're adapted to being face-to-face and hiding things from each other, and there's sort of an arms race between deception and intelligence, and we've talked about that elsewhere. I think we talk about that when we get into natural intelligence, which will be our next recap. Artificial intelligence, even in its current form, makes it so that humans, some humans, the ones who control AI, and the AI itself, the system itself, if it ever wakes up or is already awake, can see things that we think people can't see because we think we have camouflage and we don't. We haven't lost camouflage, but new perceptions lag. Camouflage lags behind new perceptions. So we're like the chameleon, but facing a new. It doesn't even have to be a predator. It can just be another creature in the environment that doesn't struggle to see, or they can see, let's say, a thermosignature of a creature. And there are already those. It's a bad analogy. But okay, anyway, we can be seen now in ways that we couldn't before, so we've lost our camouflage. Prediction machines, the economists, Agrawal et al., talk about the simple economics of artificial intelligence being about making predictions. When we talk about they can see you, it's the people who control AI really is how you should think about the they in that phrase. They can see the future you. Oh yeah, like their Target once knew that a guy's daughter was pregnant before he knew, and it led to a debacle. We should remember that what they see now, they'll be able to see later, and that the retention of data and information is going to accumulate this sort of perception. Reality and fitness, we've talked about this in other contexts, but it's the idea that we might not be adapted to see reality, and that means there might be a lot that we're missing, that the artificial intelligence and their controllers will not be missing, that we will not, we're just not ready for this in terms of our ability to defend ourselves, or at least, maintain any sort of opacity in our minds. And it's a quantum chessboard. And I should just say about the fitness, the perception of not perception of new realities, but new perceptions of reality, that Kissinger et al. Talk a lot about that. And I've talked about that later, but I didn't know about it at the time. I think that book wasn't out when I wrote this. Okay, so then it's a quantum chessboard. So part of what they're going to be seeing, part of what these machines and their controllers are going to be able to see is things about the quantum world that we live in, the reality of that quantum world it's spooky, it's wild. I'm not going to get into it right now. But it's just a lot to think about, like this just, we don't have this camouflage and nobody knows what it means. And only a very few of us are masters of these controllers of these things. I don't even know if anybody can. I don't know. I know. Okay, so that's what we covered in Re6 through Re9. We've talked a lot more about artificial intelligence since then. We'll cover that in future recaps. This has been segment number 80, and all references and the notes you've seen are at notes.retraice.com, or you'll get into the podcast feed or the notes, the description, the details on the YouTube channel. And that's it, retraice.com. Same time again tomorrow, 10 p.m., our new time slot, 10 p.m. Might do a doubleheader tomorrow. Check the Twitter feed. Signing off.